Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Fiend Metal, and in today's video the big question is, can the EJ18 be saved for a second time? Alright, so like I said in the last video, we have an issue with the crank again. Now, I'm willing to bet it's the same issue we had before, but not as bad as it was before, obviously, because, well, it still runs and drives, just not very well. So I figure, instead of trying to push it and damage the car, worse than I absolutely am going to, stop, take it apart. I can do some other repairs while I'm in there, prototype out a couple new parts that I've got in my head and designed out on paper at my house, and we're going to do a whole bunch of work this weekend. Now, today I just brought it in the shop. It's actually Wednesday. I've been busy most of the week. I got my customer project obviously out of the shop, but I got this thing in here and we're going to be starting on it. I've got the fluids draining out of it. I'm going to leave it overnight because it's already like 10 o'clock at night. But I'm going to drain the fluids. That way tomorrow I think I'll be able to pull the radiator and the fans and get down to the front engine assembly. We're also going to be pulling the AC condenser and probably part of the AC lines because it's not charged anyways. I already removed it. Because it's just got the blank compressor on there for right now. So I want to get it torn down so that way we can start working on it, because not only are we going to be fixing the crank, but time given, we're going to be working on that lower radiator support that I smashed up so badly at Oregon or OG Hoopty Cross in 2020. So with that being said, I'm going to go home for the night, but I will be back when I have time to start tearing into that thing. So I'll talk to you guys in a second. Alrighty, so I'm back, and well, it's time to see if we can get figured out exactly what's wrong with the car this time. Now, the plan for this video is actually just to figure out the extent of the damage, both on the crank and as well as the lower radiator support. I want to go over everything, see if I can get a game plan that will actually fix the car figured out. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys about the crank and the damage on the lower radiator support, but as far as plans go, well, you're going to have to see what's coming as I kind of develop that. Now, I'm going to get started tearing that apart. It's got all the fluids are drained out, but pretty much everything else is left to do. So I'm going to get to work, and I'll talk to you guys when I get an idea of what's happened. Alright, so what you guys just saw was, well, as real as it gets in my opinion. I cannot blame anybody. I cannot say anything bad. I forgot to put a second hood brace in. Usually I would take the white stick that's over there, or it's a piece of PVC, and put it in, and it would act as a hood brace to hold the hood up a little higher to get more light. Subarus have a nice feature where you can usually just put the hood completely vertical and it will stay there. Well, unless you shake the car. And when I was taking the upper radiator hose off, unfortunately, I shook the car. And this goes out to tell anybody, it can happen to you anytime. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if you can see it. I did not dye my hair red with anything other than my own blood. That hood, the center latch clip, I'm brain farting on it right now. That caught me right in the back of the head right here. Actually, here's a picture of what it looks like after we applied cornstarch. So, yeah, that's what it looks like. Now, I'm not going to show my bloody scalp on here, really. What we did, somebody just posted. I apparently forgot to shut my settings off. But what we did was I call up somebody, had them come down, help me just make sure it stopped bleeding. Then I took cornstarch, because cornstarch will clot on it, and we applied that to the area. It's not bleeding anymore. It already really stopped bleeding. But the cornstarch is something that we use with animals to stop them from bleeding on animals that you can't, necessarily use other chemicals on. So I know it works for them. I know it works for me. So therefore, that's what we did. Now, I'm going to be the first person to say, think things through when you do it. I knew better than to do that, and just thinking, I'm in a shop. My bay doors are closed. There should be no real cause for it to fall. Led to me getting one heck of a reminder of why I should always make sure to take that extra step of security. So I'm going to see about getting back to work. I'm going to do my best to get enough progress made on this tonight, but we're just going to have to kind of see where the night goes from here on. But I wanted you guys to see that really just because it's real. It's what happens, One little thought of, I don't need to do that, can lead to bam! And it could have gone a whole lot worse if that had hit somewhere else. You never know how it can end. So with that being said, I'm going to get back to work, and I'll talk to you guys in a minute. So, I think there's a little bit of play in there. Just a little bit. I mean, not horrible amounts, right? Alrighty, so that's it. We're done working on the car for the night. Now, overall, that could have gone a lot worse, and that's all I have to say. I could have done things differently and, possibly prevented this situation, or it could have not been prevented. I don't really know. But here's a breakdown of what exactly went wrong with the engine portion. We'll talk about the lower radiator support in a minute. When I took the car apart, this is the crank bolt. It is supposed to be torqued down to, I believe, 160, 180 foot-pounds of torque. Definitely not a finger-tight bolt. I took it out with my fingers. It wasn't torqued. Now, that leads me to what I believe actually caused this failure. When I went to take the timing belt tension off, it was absolutely maxed out and did not have tension on it, true tension. It had a little bit of tension, but a little bit of play too. So that leads me to believe that the timing belt simply stretched out all the way, causing it to get a harmonic issue where at high RPMs or just regular daily driving, it would obviously have that little bit of chatter in it. And that chatter would then work away at the JB weld, Once the JB weld came loose and it was able to get a little bit more chatter in it, it'd work its way on the harmonics of the bolt and back the bolt out. That's what I believe happened, and that's what, everything points to. Now, unfortunately, the balancer pulley took the brunt of it. It's got a little bit of wear in it, but we got lucky. This cam timing pulley, that is usable. It didn't damage the upper portion and bring it out square at all. There's a little bit of wear on one spot, but not too bad, and hopefully it's reusable. If not on this motor, because I have a good one, then maybe on a different motor down the road. Now, as far as what we're going to go doing about fixing the actual crank, well, since I have the TIG welder, I'm going to come up with a way to actually add metal back. So even though the JB weld repair could have probably held together longer if it hadn't been for the belt issue, I'm going to actually go about fixing it in a way that it shouldn't have any more issues, period. We're going to take the TIG welder, we're going to add the material back, put it all back together. I might be looking for a new balancer pulley, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. So overall, it was just really probably a wear out of parts. The timing belt that was on the car just stretched out to probably the maximum. The tensioner was old and used. I put the car together with used parts when I initially got it, trying to keep it on a budget. So, this probably could have been fixed and prevented with a timing belt kit, but, it happened. I didn't get to it in time, and there's nothing I can do to change it now. Now, as far as other things go, that lower radiator support, it's a little bit worse than I thought it was initially. Unfortunately, it did break one of the lower radiator mounts, specifically the one on the passenger side. It snapped the tab off the bottom of the radiator, but it did not actually damage the radiator as far as making it leak, so might be able to come up with something there. I have the rubber mount still, so we'll just have to see what we come up with exactly to fix that. But I'm going to end up actually tearing into it, and we're going to be tearing the lower radiator support out of the car in place of a new part I'm going to design. So, alrighty, so like I was saying before I got interrupted, we're going to be starting to tear the lower radiator support out of this car in the next video, hopefully in the next video. And we're going to be starting to design a new part that I'm going to put to market to replace it. Since new parts are no longer made for this car, it's kind of without an option to actually fix it properly. And I'm going to have to develop an option to fix it, well, as properly as I can, while just saying, you know what? I used it for racing. It got damaged, and there's nothing I can do to stop that or change that fact now. So I'm going to rebuild it the best way I know how. That involves tubing bender, a welder, and some steel. So if you guys like what you're seeing and you want to see more of it, you want me see me build new parts, do whatever, work on this race car, get my head knocked in, feel free to like and subscribe. Follow me over on Instagram and Twitter, or check me out on Facebook. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, better than I am, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Later.